Good day, good people. It's your girl Memphis Jones, and I am coming to you from Bluebell, Pennsylvania. Now, one thing I have not been able to discover is if Bluebell ice cream is actually produced in this area. We're still researching on that subject because that is my mother's favorite. And when I say favorite, honey, I mean absolute favorite ice cream of all time. And I would love to learn if it is from this area of the United States, because if so, we need to find the factory and buy some stock because she absolutely loves Bluebell ice cream. And while I'm here, I thought to myself, you are so behind on your videos, to the good people of the Hey Dear blog family. And so I needed to have a seat, and so I've taken some time away from all of the bustle and the hustle of the rest of the hotel that I happen to be staying in, which is the Normandy Farm. And I found a nice quiet space. They call this the library. There are no books in the library. I don't know how they call it the library, but I'm in the library of this lovely estate. And I am reviewing June on the Range. I know, guys, it's August. It's August. That means that I've read a host of books between June, July, and August. And that would be physical ebooks as well as audiobooks. And I am just now coming to you for June on the Range. I apologize, but so much has happened, and might I add that some of these books have been quite a kick in the head and took me a little time to read them, but currently I am going through my notes for God's Country. God's Country is a satirical western written by Percival Everett. Yes, the Percival Everett that everybody is so in love with due to his current release of James, which came out earlier this year. But Percival is a self-proclaimed cowboy, and I watched an interview of him speaking about his book James, and during that particular interview they had some time to talk about some of his other books, and he mentioned that he was a cowboy. So I'm going to find that again, and I'll loop it here so that you can have some kind of reference to his proclamation of being a cowboy. But outside of reading God's Country by Mr. Everett, I also read Yellowback Radio Broke Down. Yellowback Radio is the name of the town, and it indeed broke down. And this is another satirical western. This one in particular is by Ishmael Reed and Honeys. Yeah, child, yeah, that book, that book, we'll get to it. Trust me when I say we'll get to it. And the third book that I read for June on the Range is a magical realism. And actually, Yellowback Radio and God's Country both also have elements of magical realism, but the third book that I read is called The Bullet Swallower. Let's check that. But I'm almost certain it's called The Bullet Swallower, and it's a Mexican-American magical realism tale of family's history, and also in that history and in the doings of that family history, in the context of that family, who pays for the sins of the elders. Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind as we make our way through these 3 books. But I'm so excited to be here with you all, and I'm so sorry again for having such a long delay in between my last video and this video. I mean, I feel like I was on quite a roll with the videos that I released prior for during the month of June. I think I released 3 videos during the month of June, but I didn't get to complete my readings for On the Range June because I didn't get the books until towards the end of the month. And then the books themselves kind of slowed me down because I had to process what I was reading for some of them. And I was also doing multiple things in my real life that kind of contributed to how I was slowing down by that. But I'm here now. Honey, I'm here now, and I want to tell you guys about these books. So stick with me, and I hope I got some good stuff for you to make you want to stick and stay and press the follow button and the like and the share. Hook me up. All right, it's your girl Matthew Jones, and I will be right back with more from June on the Range in August. Hang in there. Hi guys, welcome back. Yes, I know. I was frolicking all over the place with horses and brushing them and learning how to lead and feeding the horse my finger. Y'all, I was just doing the most, and I just felt like if I'm gonna talk about June on the Range in August, and now we're 3 days into September, and I'm just now getting there, I might as well throw in some good B-roll for y'all, because, honey, this is taking a lot. It's taking a lot out of me. So, let's get started, shall we? God's Country. God's Country is a Western written by Percival Everett. He's the same author that wrote James, which is not the retelling, but the telling of Huckleberry Finn from the point of view of James. So he has quite the portfolio of books, various books. I actually also have James, but I also have Watershed, which is also by Mr. Percival Everett. And my baby just came in the room. Girl, hush. Hush, Sasha. Anyway. So, what is God's Country about? I'm going to read to you the jacket, and then I'm going to tell you how I feel, okay? We'll start with that. So it says, in this stunning new novel, God's Country, Percival Everett offers a wickedly funny rewrite of the great American Western. The unlikely narrator, really, sweetheart? Sasha. Can y'all hear her licking? Can y'all hear it? Yeah. She decided to join me, and then she gets in the bed and starts to licking. What? Anyway. The unlikely narrator through this tale of misadventures is one Kurt Martyr, gambler, drinker, cheat, and would-be womanizer. He has lost his farm, his wife, and his dog to a band of marauding hooligans. With nothing to live on but a desire to recover what is rightfully his, Martyr is forced to enlist the help of the best tracker in the West, a black man named Bubba. This odd couple is soon joined by Jake, a wayward child determined to join the hunt. As Jake and Martyr follow Bubba across desolate, unsettled land, they meet Indians, settlers, and soldiers. Aiming to keep a low profile, they nevertheless find themselves in all kinds of trouble, including run-ins with a scrupulous preacher, a flamboyant prostitute, and General Custer in the nightgown. A natural coward, remember that. A natural coward, Martyr, only survives these incidents because of Bubba's reluctant heroism. However, even after their final chilling exchange, Martyr fails to realize that Bubba's secret extends beyond his ability to track footprints on the prairie. God's Country is hilarious and haunting by turns, a slam-bang parable of the way things were in 1871. So listen, y'all. I have many notes. Many notes. In this book, Kurt Martyr, the coward, watches a group of men dressed poorly as American Indians torch his house, and they used the bow and arrow to shoot his dog. He watches this from a different hill. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't run over to say, "Hey, that's my house. Why are you burning my house?" Everybody got a gun. He didn't use it. He just watched. He watched him take his wife, throw her over the back of a horse, and basically torch and kill everything on the land to include his livestock. So he goes into town, and everybody's like, "Oh, here this fool come. He's broke. He owe me money." The saloon barkeep comes out, and he's calling them everything in the book but a child of God. And the first thing he can say is, "They burnt my house and killed my dog." Now, on his way from his house to the town, he had the dog with him on the end of a stick. At some point, he realized that the dog fell off the end of the stick, and all he now had in his hand was the arrow. Nobody that he encountered during the first half of this book could care less that his wife was gone. Everybody was stuck on the fact that they killed your dog. Man, what kind of man goes off and kills somebody's puppy? Man, what kind of human is this? Everybody he encounters, and he tells the story. That sets up the whole concept of God's Country, because they are in the West. They, Martyr himself is AWOL from the military from Virginia. They are living off the land, God's country, stealing, thieving. It's ridiculous. And in order to get back what is rightfully his, he is told the best tracker is Bubba the black man. Now, when he's trying to find Bubba, during the time of asking around, a kid attaches himself to Kurt Martyr because it sounds like to this kid that the same band that took Kurt's wife and killed his dog and burned his place down are the same unscrupulous bastards that killed this child's parents. Kurt didn't want nothing to do with this child. So the kid broke down, barked like a dog, and bit him in the leg. And now he's stuck with Jake. Okay? The three of them, Jake, Bubba, and Kurt, become kind of like a family of some sort. Jake is very attached to Bubba, feels safe with Bubba. Bubba is quite the tracker. Bubba also is in tune with the land around him. And he's friends with some local American Indians in the area. And at a point in time where they needed to find a safe space, because what we later learn is Jake is a girl. And several individuals try to take advantage of Jake. And that's it seems that Bubba knew that Jake was a girl, even though he was teaching Jake to, you know, ride the horse correctly and how to saddle and, all of the different things that come along with being on the range and living off the land, you know, building a fire and all of the different things, sourcing the wood. It seems that Marta never picked up on the fact that Jake was a girl, even though there were little hints like, using the restroom off by himself or herself, and different things like that. And so as you're going through the book, Bubba just keeps being the more sensible. Kurt is always skittish and scared and not wanting to make a move. But then when Bubba decides that they're going to do something, he asks a million questions about the course of action to be taken, because he has to follow this black man, and that's a problem for him. And Bubba could care less what his issues are, because you paid me to help you do this. You're paying me. In the end, she's snoring. In the end, Kurt forgets about his wife, falls in love with a prostitute. They save Jake from the preacher twice, because the preacher basically was trying to turn poor Jake into a prostitute. And I don't know what Jake's female name is, so we can only go with Jake. Um, the build up of this story was kind of like Bubba was just the constant string through the story, that whenever he reappeared, if they got separated or something, he always reappeared and saves Kurt in some way. But he's also the calm in the storm, because Kurt is the storm. Kurt is always into something or in the way, and then Bubba smooths things, or tells him, hey, we need XYZ, but you have to go because you're the white man. If I go, I'm going to get killed, or I'm a runaway slave. I may be found, but Bubba is known in these parts because of his abilities. In the end, and this is a spoiler, if you decide to read this book, I'm count to 10 so you can come back later. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoiler time. In the end, Bubba is exhausted. He's aware that Kurt has gambled off the whole farm, that he promised to give Bubba some of his land in order to help him find his wife, because he had no money. Bubba had money. Bubba had good credit. So everything that they did, it was on Bubba's name and on Bubba's good character, even though he was a black man. In the end, Bubba says, look up there. That's where you need to go. And because Bubba decided at the end that he wasn't going any further, he had it. He was tired of dealing with Kurt. And Kurt decided to get a little bass in his voice and try to tell him what he gonna do and what he ain't gonna do. And Bubba is like, man, I'm done. I've helped you track your wife. Now it's up to you to go get her. And Kurt pleaded and pleaded. And as Bubba turned and starts to ride off, Kurt pulls out his weapon. The first person he's ever shot was a black man in the back who had been with him through so much and had saved his life repeatedly. Kurt should have been dead multiple times in this book. And even though I laughed throughout this book, when it came to some of the more serious parts, like prostituting the child, and a young man was hanged in this book, a young black man, because Bubba basically saved Jake from being raped, but Jake shot the man. and nobody was going to believe that the child did the shooting when the black man is actually the one who beat him up. And so another black man who was actually a child was hanged. It was always something dark about to happen, even though everything leading up to it was hilarious, um, or like a twisted turny situation. But in the end, Kurt shoots Bubba in the back multiple times, and Bubba, even when he fell off the horse, he got back on it, straightened his back, and kept riding. And I think that's some form of a magical realism that was part of this story. To say that, he's more than a tracker. Bubba is more than a tracker. Um, and that's how this book ended. It ended in a crushing note. As you can tell by my personality, my voice, everything has shifted. But that coward killed him, killed that man in the back. And I think it's very poignant when you start the book off knowing that you're dealing with a coward. You're not even surprised to know that when they don't get their way, in the end, they stab you in the back, or in this case, shoot you in the back. The next book I read is Yellowback Radio Broke Down by Ishmael Reed. I did a little research on Ishmael Reed because I didn't know a lot about him. And this is also satirical. And it's written in the late 60s, early 70s. So like the language in here throws you for many loops. Oh, yeah. And the story is about Loop Guru Kid. Magical realism, yes. But in this version of magical realism, it's a bit of hoodoo, voodoo. There's a lot of listen, if you're sensitive, don't read the book. If you're sensitive to a lot of the things that okay. Yellowback Radio is a town. The book says it broke down because it did. By the end of the book, it's completely broken down. The structure of the town is no longer relevant because the person with the money, this cross-dressing fat guy, so I can say, who kills his wives. I think he's killed 2 or 3, and then he mail orders another one who is apparently a nymphomaniac, and she keeps sleeping with whoever she decides she wants to sleep with at the time. And I don't think she ever consummated the marriage with him. But Loop Guru Kid starts out as a member of a circus, and this circus gets hired by the guy that runs this town to entertain the kids, because the kids of Yellowback Radio took over the town. In one of the sentences, they said that they don't trust anyone with gray hair at their temples. And so when the circus comes into town, the kids are like, "Who are you? What are you? Why are you here?" But what the kids nor the circus have awareness of is that they were hired to distract the kids so that the guy with the money that's really running the town, it's not the minister, it's not the sheriff, it's not the doctor. These individuals all work for this one guy. And I've forgotten his name because he was just really ridiculous. Let me see. This book was so ridiculous that even at one point the Pope comes to town. to talk to Drag Gibson. That's the guy that runs the town. Drag Gibson. A rich, slovenly cattleman. So let me go ahead and read to you the back side of this book to give you a little context. So, the New York Review of Books said this about the book. Yellowback Radio Broke Down is a full-blown horse opera, a surrealistic spoof of the Western with Indian chiefs aboard helicopters, stagecoaches, and closed-circuit TVs, cavalry charges of taxis. Yes, it's really that ridiculous. It's kind of like, think of Will Smith in the Wild Wild West and how they had these mechanical things and that good and well they couldn't have had, in these time frames in real life. So a lot of the things that's brought up in the book, you're like, how is that even possible in this time frame that we're supposed to be in? It's not, but it is in his book. Folks, this here is the story of the Loup Garou Kid, a cowboy so bad he made a working posse of spells phone in sick. A bullwhacker so unfeeling he left the print of winged mice on hides of crawling women. Yes, he would print them with a cattle poker thing. You know what I'm talking about. But they heat it up. And a desperado so ornery he made the Pope cry and the most powerful of cattlemen shed his head to the executioner's swine. Yes, the pigs would eat you up. And so begins the Hoodoo Western by Ishmael Reed, author of Mumbo Jumbo and one of America's most innovative and celebrated writers. Definitely innovative. Reed demolishes white American history and folklore as well as Christian myth in this masterful satire of contemporary American life. In addition to the black satanic Loup Garou Kid, Yellowback Radio Broke Down features Drag Gibson, a rich, slovenly cattleman, Mustache Sal, his nymphomaniac mail-order bride, Thomas Jefferson, and many others in a hilarious parody of the Old Western. Ishmael Reed was just throwing everything and the kitchen sink into this. Even some of the conversations that the characters had, you're just like, I'm sorry, what? This hasn't even happened yet in time based off of the timeline of this book. And yet they it's just, this is really hard to explain. It really is. But anyway, after the circus comes to town and they learn that Drag Gibson hired them to try and surprise the kids and to keep their attention, basically so that they can be assassinated by his cattlemen so that the adults can take the town back over, because the kids was fed up with the adults in the town and they ran them off. And they put drugs in the drinking water that the watering hole that they used. So all of the adults are basically walking around high throughout the book, and the kids get killed. I think 2 of them make it to the next town. But each scene is as weird as the other one. So when the cattle folks come in and take the kids down, they also kill everyone in the circus except Loup gets away. But Loup was being taught hoodoo by the tarot reader that was part of the circus. And I think she was from Louisiana. So he's taken everything that he's learned, gone into a cave, and he makes an alliance with an Indian chief called Chief Showcase. Chief Showcase is working on behalf of Drag Gibson and apparently Thomas Jefferson and the Congress. And he's just telling each one of them different secrets, but he's really trying to help Luke Guru clean house so that his tribe can come back to their land. Everything will be restored to the tribe that had been run off from the land. But it's crazy, okay? There are closed circuit TVs in places and speakers, and Chief Showcase flies in a helicopter that can also fix a whole meal of collard greens and cornbread and whatever else he gave Luke Guru to eat when he found him dying in the desert. Yeah, it's buck wild basically. So it's up to you. It's up to you if you want to read it. You know, if I had to say highly recommend it. It's up to you. And does not recommend. I'm gonna say it's up to you. Okay. If you're sensitive to words, if you're sensitive to characterizations, prejudices, recognize it's a book from a particular time frame, and some of the jive talk is in here, okay? So just calm down. If you're gonna read it, read it. If you ain't, you ain't. That's 2 or 3. Now, I went to my local library to get the physical copy of The Bullet Swallower, but they didn't have it. So I'm gonna put the picture up, probably here. So The Bullet Swallower, another magical realism, satirical western. This one is a Mexican American, and by American I mean South American, not North American, origin story, where you have a thief, basically, preparing to rob a train of gold, I believe it was, in Texas. And so he travels up, and his very sensitive, law-abiding brother decides, I'm going with you, even though he did not want him to go. He goes. Things are going all right, and then all of a sudden they get found out, and the Rangers, the Texas Rangers, get sent after them. And that is the whole of the story between The Bullet Swallower by Elizabeth Gonzalez James. About the book. A mesmerizing, wildly entertaining, magical realism western in the vein of Cormac McCarthy meets Gabriel Garcia Marquez. The Bullet Swallower follows a Mexican bandito as he sets off for Texas to rob a train, only to encounter a mysterious figure who has come, finally, to collect a cosmic debt, generations in the making. The Boston Globe. In 1895, Antonio Sonoro is the latest in a long line of ruthless men. He's good with his gun and drawn to trouble, but he's also out of money and out of options. A drought has ravaged the town of Laredo, Mexico, where he lives with his wife and children. And so when he hears about a train laden with gold and other treasures, he sets off for Houston to rob it, with his younger brother Hugo in tow. But when the heist goes awry and Hugo is killed by the Texas Rangers, Antonio finds himself launched into a quest for revenge that endangers not only his life and his family, but his eternal soul. In 1964, Jaime Sonoro is Mexico's most renowned actor and singer. But his comfortable life is disrupted when he discovers a book that purports to tell the entire history of his family, beginning with Cain and Abel. In its ancient pages, Jaime learns about the multitude of horrific crimes committed by his ancestors. And when the same mysterious figure from Antonio's timeline shows up in Mexico City, Jaime realizes that he may be the one who has to pay for his ancestors' crimes, unless he can discover the true story of his grandfather Antonio, the legendary Bendito el Traga Balas, the Bullet Swallower. A family saga that's epic in scope and loosely based on the author's own great-grandfather, The Bullet Swallower is rich in lyrical language, gripping action, and enchanting magical realism. Esquire. It tackles border politics, intergenerational trauma, and the legacies of racism and colonialism in a lush setting with stunning prose that asks who pays for the sins of our ancestors and whether it is possible to be better than our forebears. And that is the whole of the story between this family and how down the line the sins of this family is being like a parallel between two time frames in the life of this family, and one part of the family trying to do right and another part of the family how they made their money, how they got to a point of being leaders in the community, but mistreating the community because they had these minds. And so, as that part of the story moves forward and a child is born, he becomes, a thief, bandito, I think it's called, and how he's trying to defeat the marshals for the way that they killed his brother, essentially. What you have as a running thread throughout this book, though, is the story of death. Death in the form of a humanistic personality. It kind of reminds me of Meet Joe Black with who was in that movie? Anthony Hopkins, I think, and Brad Pitt. And Brad Pitt is death. This character of death is there when the bandito is born, and he's there when the story of this family, which had been written down, is delivered to the next generation. In this particular story, you have 3 generations going through the process of either the past, the present, and the future, and they're all like going through this process. So when I started the book, I had to reread the front half, and by reread I mean audio. I had to listen to the first chapters twice, and then I decided just keep moving because you're gonna get stuck right here. And by the time I got to the end, I was able to then go back and re-listen to the first 2 or 3 chapters. And it all made sense that this death had to make a decision about how to proceed with ending this line. Someone needed to atone for the sins of the forefathers of this family line. And what was happening is the family line, as it went through, was trying to course correct, whether they knew it or not. By the end generation, the future generation, it was understood that we need to fix something here, and stop the process of destruction of the family from moving forward. It appears. So death had to make a decision. I know what I'm here to do, but I also see something changing here, and it's changing me. I don't know what that looks like when you get back to, say, hey, I know you sent me out to do this, but they changed their ways and I just couldn't find myself to taking them, or whatever that conversation looks like. But the end scene of the bullet swallower is, and the reason he's called bullet swallower is because he is shot in the face and survives. And he survives by way of a local shaman woman who helps him to heal. And that makes him a ghost. Because the marshals are sure that they've taken care of him, and here he is again. At the end, his grandson or great grandson, who is a movie star, he is the one who is given the book of the life of the family, and he starts to understand something is happening. And as you're learning his part, because the book changes. So since death is grappling with himself, I think that's why it feels like it may be in parallel, as he has one foot in the past and one foot in the future. In the present. But at the very end, as they have taken the book of the family and made it into a movie, the young man and his father are sitting in the audience, and in the movie, a specter of the grandfather walks up to the screen, making eye contact with them, and acknowledges them. And it seems, and it felt to me to say, hey, even though all of this has happened in our family, we've done all right. The generations of men here represented here, we've done all right. We've rectified the situation. I realize now that I did not tell you who the author of the book is, and her name is Elizabeth Gonzalez, I think. With me not having it in my hand. But one thing that you will learn from the book, or if you look up the author and read aspects of this book, are actual portions of her family life history. Her grandfather actually was a bandito, and he was shot and so on and so forth. So elements of her family history have been built into this story. It's really good. And I highly recommend that particular book. So if I'm ranking, and I don't do stars and all of that jazz, but if I'm ranking these 3 books, I highly recommend The Bullet Swallower. I recommend God's Country. And it's up to you when it comes to Yellow Back Radio Broke Down. It's because you gotta be able to deal with it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's one of those books that you really should read in one sitting. But it was so crazy that I just was like, I need a break. I need a break. I'm a mood reader, and there are times when I have to walk away and come back. Okay? That's what had happened was. But I'm so glad that you all were patient with me as I finally completed June on the Range in September. I don't know. Life. You know, I live a life that's, I'm all over the place. But you're here. I'm here. Now you have my 3 books. And, I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, like and subscribe. It's up to you. But I highly suggest that you do. If you decide not to, that's fine too. I just appreciate you being here with me now. Okay? All right. It's your girl, Memphis Jones, and I am out so I can go on snuggles with my babe. She's so cute, y'all. Look at this mess. Bye-bye.